Hello friends, welcome to another Zen and the Art of Miniature Painting video. I'm not using my usual camera today. It's acting up again, giving a sort of weird buffer overflow error. So I am using my phone. Apologies for the slight wobble on the camera. Anyway, I just wanted to take this opportunity to show some of the stuff that I've finished in the last month or so, and also some rebasing that's been going on here. I thought I'd start with the 28mm Crimean project. This is the first base of line infantry that I got done. So these are the 55th Westmoreland Regiment. This is the side that has the light infantry company, as you can see by the green pom-pom type things on the shakos. Yeah, I've opted for a sort of slightly more arid looking grass, sort of parched look in general with the Crimean project, given that Alma was fought sort of September time, I think September time. But anyway, it was fought in the autumn, so I've opted for that. These figures are not my favorite. These are the Warlord figures. I think you can get a sense, perhaps, of why I'm not a huge fan as we swing around here along the front. There's a slight sort of, each figure looks like it's kind of listing off to the side, and the legs aren't quite right to my eye. But that's just, maybe that's just me. I don't know, not a huge fan. The other thing that I found troubling about these figures was the fact that they're made of a very soft white metal. So, I mean, bayonets keep getting bent, they break off. The figures are just really, really malleable. And that's not a good thing. Especially not when you've got a bunch of bayonet tips pointing upwards. So that's the Westmoreland, the first base. There's still several more to come, obviously, because I'm doing units of 24. But this is the first line regiment that I've started on. Next up, we have my first base of Grenadier Guards. These are from North Star. These are Great War miniatures, and these were an absolute joy to paint. The difference between them and the Warlord figures is night and day. These don't have that brittle metal problem. They are just quite exquisite. They're a lot larger than the Perry figures and the Warlord figures, just they're bulkier. But I think the bulk gives you a slightly more robust figure. So anyway, I've done this as the far left-hand stand. So you've got a sergeant here dressing the ranks, and then his stout fellows marching beside him. And yeah, really enjoyed painting these up. They paint up quite nicely, and quite quickly also. One thing I did was I varied up the trousers from regiment to regiment, just because I think I'm going to get rather tired of painting red coats. So I've been sort of mixing up the colors that the trousers are from regiment to regiment, just to give myself just a bit of a break, really. But yeah, happy with these, the way they've come out. They look good, I think, and they're painted to a decent tabletop standard. I've not spent too much time on them. I don't have the time to spend on them. One thing I will probably do before I varnish them is just give the bayonets and the rifle barrels maybe just a touch more shiny silver or shiny metal, just to give them a tad more kind of shininess, really. But other than that, I'm quite pleased with them. You know, tick that off, onto the next base. Okay, now we move on to some Jewish slingers for my ancients. These are new line figures, 28mm. They're quite old. I painted these probably back in the early 2000s, and they were originally individually based for Warhammer Ancient Battles. But what I've done, so I'm just going to pull the camera out some. It looks like it keeps dropping focus. What I did was I based them up in pairs on 60 by 30mm bases for ADLG or DBX. But I did one base with 3 figures on it, just on a 60 by 60. The club I play at, we typically use 60 by 60s for everything, but I do want to make sure I don't have to rebase again. So I've gone for again my standard basing style. So these were originally part of a early Imperial Roman project where sorry, I'm just going to try and make a little stand here so I'm not too wobbly. There we go, that's a bit better, I think. This was part of a early Imperial Roman project where these were part of Vespasian's army that was sent to subjugate the Jews during the rebellion. The figures are Maccabeans, but I use them as like Judeans basically, who are sent by Herod the Great to go and quash the Jewish rebellion under Vespasian. And what was nice about them was although they are quite the monopose, obviously, what I did was I mixed things up back in the day by varying their garments, the patterning and so on, just to make it more interesting. So a lot of purples in there. I think there's one with yellow and purple, just to kind of make things look a bit different. The cloaks are all slightly different tones as well, and they look good. And the nice thing about these figures is they're quite versatile within the sort of Levantine Hellenistic world. Lots of armies they could be used in, and you can never have enough slingers, really. Alright, and then also on the rebasing pile, these are some 25mm really figures from Navigator. Used to be sold by Magister Militum, but they've sadly disappeared, it seems. They were marketed as Elamian archers. I've used them as Nabatean archers, which are just sort of pre-Islamic Arabs. Really just Arameans. So they were, again, part of the contingent that went as allies with Vespasian to subjugate the Jews during the rebellion. And this is what I did here was I stuck to a pretty narrow palette of white, green, yellow and red, and I did a lot of detailed patterning on the tunics and the trousers and so on, and they've come out quite nice. These I've based up as a sort of formed bow unit rather than as skirmishers. I do have a few spare that are painted, and then some unpainted figures of the same type, but I don't have enough to put together a proper stand for the remainder. So what I'll do is, as and when, I'll paint those up, and then they'll get added to the, they'll get based up separately and so on. But yeah, always handy to have some Asiatic archers. Okay, and then last but not least, these very shiny New Line 28mm 3040, which I painted up for my Seleucid army way back in the day. But again, as Hellenistic mercenaries, they're quite versatile and fit in most places. I like New Line design figures. They rank up really nicely. They're not overly animated. They are not too intricate in detail, so they're quite quick to paint up. And these ones were done again in the early 2000s. I've based them up 6 to a base here. I have another 12 figures unpainted in the pile, which I will do as a separate unit of 30 or 40, to bulk out that kind of Hellenistic force thing. One thing that has occurred to me as I've been rebasing these, I've noticed some chips on the paint and so on, and also a bit of shine. I mean, they look shiny in the video that I'm looking at right now, but in person they're far less shiny. I may hit them with a dull coat again just to take the edge off, but there's a few chips here and there, so obviously the temptation is to go by as you're going by and do touch-ups and so on, but I've avoided that temptation for the most part and been quite disciplined and just thought, you know what, actually I'll come back at a later date and do touch-ups. Now is not the time. I also, looking at the shields, I think to myself, I could put a highlight here and a highlight there, because my painting style has evolved over time, right? But again, I'm just trying to get this rebasing done. I can worry about touch-ups and stuff later, but there's still plenty to do. So I haven't really stalled too much here. So I'm very pleased with the way these have turned out. Again, they're classics from my early days of painting, and they will get much use because, the gaming group I play with, we like our ancients, and we specifically like the sort of Hellenistic Punic Wars, that kind of thing. So always lots of opportunity. So anyway, that's that. There's one other thing I wanted to quickly touch on is I got given a huge number of American Civil War figures by my friend Dave, and I've been rebasing those. They were just on some random cardboard bases, and they are rather old, but he did a good job getting them painted up the first time around. So what I'm doing is currently rebasing them for Fire and Fury, and then what I'll do is, I've just put the sand on today, Again, the temptation is to go by and do touch-ups and such. I'm going to avoid that temptation for now. What I might do later on is just whack a wash over the top of these just to see if I can't give them a bit of definition. They're a bit flat. But free figures always good, but they do need to be rebased for something I can actually use them as, so they match my Confederate army. So I've been sort of pottering along doing this as while I've been redoing the rebasing for the 28mm stuff.